Okay, good. So good morning again, everyone. So welcome to our second session of Science 2COO, TUCU. This is all about resumes. And I'm just going to stop sharing just for a second here and put you on the grid view. Just by a show of thumbs up, who already has created a resume for a specific purpose? Okay, so seeing lots and lots of thumbs up. So that's fantastic. You've already gotten there. You've already made an attempt to get this document ready. And this is a document that's going to evolve as you grow professionally. And this is the place where we're starting now. And as I mentioned last week in class, in case you weren't here, I know you've experienced much of this type of content before, but now you're a full-fledged adult. And I would invite you to think about yourself as a blooming professional. And this is your resume that's going to take you into your professional life as you go. And we're here to help. Laura's here to help. She's going to be doing all of your resume reviews. This is intended to help you get the best version of your document you can in this time we have together. So just like so many things in the working world, in the school world, there's always an opportunity. And what does that opportunity want? What are the qualifications they're looking for? And you want that opportunity, so you're trying to match them, okay? That's why our puzzle pieces connect here. So your resume is one of those documents that you want to customize so that this document will meet the qualifications of the job, the school, the professional school, graduate studies, whatever the opportunity may be for you. You're trying to match what they're looking for. And this is one of the documents that you can help craft to help you attain that alignment with the expectations of the opportunity. So what exactly is a resume? So, I mean, one way to look at it is that it's an advertisement. It's a marketing document. It's your self-advertisement. Yes, it is a concise summary of your achievements. It can hint at how you fit into the workplace culture by sharing maybe some of your work ethic, some of your transferable traits. But it ultimately is about the benefits of hiring you. You want to be able to showcase to the reader what it is about your skills and strengths that they would like to engage. Okay, this is what it's for. You want to put out a resume there that people want to pick up. It is not just a record of your duties and responsibilities. Yes, it is that, but it's more than that. So there are some different types of resumes. The most common type, and this is probably what most of you will develop, is a chronological resume. So this takes all of your experiences, whether it's education, work, volunteer, and it's going to list each experience in reverse chronological order. Keeps everything in neat little packages within your experience. Then there's a different type of resume that is called functional. And here you can focus more on your skills and experience rather than keeping them in discrete buckets. And this type of resume is most often used by those who might be changing careers or potentially have gaps in their career history. Or I've noticed that some students will create a resume in this way for a particular opportunity. So maybe you want to highlight just your research skills or just your leadership skills or your mad crazy programming skills. This could be a way to highlight those things and take all of the components that fit under those categories and showcase your skills that way. It's not used that much, and just use it carefully. It can come in handy sometimes. And then there's a combination of the two. And I often see these as well. So partly chronological, but partly functional. And then non-traditional resumes, these are often web-based versions that include photos, graphics, other visuals, that kind of thing. And I'm a creative person. I love a creative document. And yet I'm going to encourage you to not think too creatively around your resume. There are best practices and expectations that are set out that are going to be important for you. The thing is that faculty, hiring managers, schools, they read so many documents and they need to know that I'm going to pick up a document and know exactly where to find things and what I'm reading here. When you get into the creative side of things, it's not so clear, and you may risk annoying somebody at the other end who's reading that. And there are other reasons too, and I'm going to get to those shortly. So it says that most hiring managers look at your resume for about 6 seconds, and then they've already made some kind of decision around that, good or bad. And I have to say, I read a lot of applications for co-op, for instance, and we get our giant stack of resumes and cover letters. There's no cover letter this year, but and I do make decisions right in that moment. Do I want to read this one first or that one first? And it's kind of a visceral reaction. It just happens. So I would like to have your input on this, and I'm going to launch a poll. We've got, sorry, I just need to stretch this so I can see my polls. Okay, we've got 2 resumes here. The content is not important. Don't read the content. Just look at it and quickly react. We have John Smith and we have Jason Brown. Which resume are you going to pick up first? Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. Looks like most people have responded, and I'm going to share with you. So you can see overwhelmingly that people wanted to pick up Jason Brown's resume, and there were 8 of you, so about 12% who wanted to choose John Smith's resume. So tell me about your choice. What made you choose one or the other? You can put up your hand and share with us, or you can put it in the chat. Either way is fine. Yes, Mackenzie.
I liked Jason's more because it had little dot points, so I could kind of easily see where all of his points were.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point, Mackenzie. Made it easy because there are all these lovely little bullet points, all nicely lined up. Dot shots are easier to read. Thanks, Rebecca. Jason's is easier to navigate, Jasmine says. Adrian says it looks more digestible. Amish says very consistent. So, all right, Jacob says Jason's was to the point and more organized. All right. Anyone who chose John Smith, care to share what was it about John's resume? Or was it just that you saw the PhD and you maybe thought John was immediately a higher priority than Jason? I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious. Okay. Well, I think everybody's kind of got the point here. I mean, really, I would say in most people's worlds, Jason's is going to be the resume that we're going to pick up. It's very nicely aligned. There are bullet points. There's white space here. I'm not met with giant paragraphs of text. You know, when you're reading yourself, don't you find that when you come to that giant paragraph, you kind of go, and you kind of skip over it really fast, and then you go to the dialogue, right? We're all human. We all have that instinct to just, oh, it's a big paragraph I need to read now. Anyway, just an exercise to show you that people do react very quickly to your document. So it is in your best interest to get your document prepared, follow some best principles so that you are not the person's resume who gets set aside because it just does not fit my expectations. All right, so just because there are resume best practices, it doesn't necessarily mean that your resume is not going to be unique. And in fact, students can follow best practices, and I'm amazed at how different they all look, right? It's everyone has different choices. It can be unique, and you can make it unique. There's lots of ways, through color, through your font choices, through, the way you line up your bullet points, just the way you organize things. There's lots of ways that you can make your resume unique. So back to the point that I made about templates. Templates are not your best friend when it comes to resumes. And there's two main reasons. The first reason is in a template, sometimes I notice students will use a template and it will give you categories. And then the student will valiantly try to put something in that category, but they just don't have anything, but they just kind of fill it up anyway because it's there, right? So that's not serving you well. It's not using the real estate on your page very well. The second reason for not using templates is something called applicant tracking systems. And this is basically intelligence software that looks at your resume, is looking for keywords, for matches, and then it tracks all of those keywords. I've heard as much as they want 80% match in order to get the resume in the maybe pile. So when you use a template and when you use tables or text boxes in Word, applicant tracking systems see those as images, not text, and it can't read it. So chances are your document is going to get thrown out because the applicant tracking system is just not working. Also, the applicant tracking systems look for standard resume headlines. So, you can have a professional summary if you wish, but don't call it all about me because it won't find that. It won't recognize it as something that you want to share with the reader. Again, simplicity is important for the tracking systems, and don't confuse it with acronyms. Okay, so make sure if you have an acronym that you have defined the acronym before, after you're using it. All right, so building your resume. You have to start somewhere. So you're going to decide functional, chronological, or a combo. Decide on the style and headings that work for you. And just keep in mind that templates are not necessarily your friend. So where do we start? Let's start with some resume basics. And I actually used to whip through this section because it always felt like you all know this. And yet then we would get all of these resumes and I think, okay, maybe you don't know this, or maybe it bears repeating, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, let's review best practices from resume points of view. So let me just start with, again, going back to thinking of this as your professional self. You do not need to include your high school on this, okay? Take off your high school education, should not be on your resume. In terms of high school work and volunteer, you're going to have to use your discretion on whether you want to include those or not. Some students don't have a very thick resume right now, and maybe you still need to include those, or maybe they're really, really key components of who you are and what you do. So use them judiciously, but definitely your school can come off, your high school can come off, definitely any honors and awards from middle school and high school can come off as well. A little more flexibility around the work and volunteer though. Okay, so length, 2 pages maximum. Never, ever, ever be more than 2 pages. It can easily be 1 page. 1 page is perfectly acceptable. If you're just going over a teeny weeny little bit onto the second page, try to find a way to adjust your spacing somehow to keep it all on 1 page, or maybe elongate it so that it goes a little more onto the second page. And your resume is going to change every time you add something or delete something or change something. So you always need to keep in mind, best practices around that. Oops, I know I changed the order of this font. So for accessibility purposes, font should be no less than 11 point. 11 point is minimum. What about font choices? When I worked with the Institute for Healthcare Communication, I came to realize that I have a very strong reaction to some fonts, and that every time I'd get a document from them, it would be in Times New Roman. And the first thing I'd have to do would be to change it because I just couldn't bear to look at it. and and then I read an article about Times New Roman being the sweatpants of fonts, meaning it's the default, can't be bothered, too lazy to change it, right? And I kind of use that as my justification. But now I have a slightly deeper justification because a while ago I went to a workshop on accessibility best practices. So for people who have challenges accessing documents. And when it comes to font choices, the best font choices are sans serif. So Times New Roman has little curly cues. Those are the serifs on it. So choose a sans serif font like Calibri or Arial, something that's very plain. It's easier to read. It scans better as well. Okay, so a lot, and try not to use more than one font, unless I'm going to say the one exception might be your name. Okay, so your name might potentially be in a different font. Your name can also be larger. Okay, or it could be a color. So could your heading. So these are the sorts of things that you can make unique. And actually, let me just add on to that about your name. Again, do not put it in the header. Okay, put it as part of the main body. Applicant tracking systems can't read your headers. So make that very prominent on your first page. I'd also suggest that on your second page, you add a header or footer that also repeats your name and a page number, but it can be small. Just sort of connect the two documents if you can, okay? But it shouldn't look exactly like your first page. I should know immediately that I'm on page 1, this is where I'm starting. Also, and I think I forgot to mention this earlier in the week, if you're going to include your LinkedIn handle, which is great, don't put the URL. Instead, hyperlink it to the word LinkedIn or to an icon for LinkedIn. Again, this is best practices around accessibility. Having that giant URL with all the letters and text there is very unfriendly for people who are visually challenged. So alignment, make sure everything's lined up. If you're indenting, make sure it's consistent. Spacing, same, consistencies. And there are many tricks in Word to alter your spacing by really minute amounts, especially if you're struggling to keep all your things on one page, or you don't want to split one thing, it's partly on one page into the next. Sometimes judicious changes in spacing can really help you out with that. Headings, okay. So your headings, there is some flexibility around this too, but your basics, the ones that we're going to expect are education, absolutely. We're going to expect work experience if you have work experience. We're going to expect volunteer experience if you have volunteer experience. So the things that could be added onto that, and these are choices, are a professional summary. So maybe, and I would suggest that you only use this if it adds some unique or innovative thing about yourself. So for example, I mean, it shouldn't be a regurgitation of what they're going to read below. But if you have a vision of what you see yourself in the future, and then you have goals and a vision of what you're doing now and how you're attempting to reach it, that could be a really strong professional statement. Just think, does it add value? So it is your choice. If you want to add one, great. If you don't, great, make it good. If you don't want to add one, that is absolutely fine too. A second category that's optional could be extracurriculars. So if you have things, especially pursuits that maybe you have certifications in, you're a certified figure skater or whatever the Skate Canada would be, or if you've got Royal Conservatory music credits, if you've got, especially if you've got really solid credentials in your extracurriculars, that would be a strong thing to add. What's not strong is adding things like, I like to read and and watch Netflix, like those sorts of things are not necessarily the strongest kind of things to include. Anyway, Extracurriculars, add it if you think it adds value. Skills. So skills section can be added too, and I do often see skills. Make sure in your skills section, you're sticking to concrete skills only, okay? So programming skills, language skills, software skills, lab skills, okay? So this is not the place for all those transferable traits like communication and organization and team, collaboration. This is not the place to list those, okay? And there are a couple of exceptions at times, but where those types of words belong are in the bullet points. They're within your experiences. And we're going to spend a lot of time on those bullet points. And so we'll talk more about that in a bit. So content, we're going to get into developing content. And by content, I mean all of the information that is going to describe each of your experiences. So let me just stop for a moment and see what questions you have about resume basics. Anything that strikes you that is new for you, a new concept, you're not sure about, not clear enough for you. You do have, the guidelines from the SCCE on Avenue to follow to help you create your draft. You do have, certainly the courseware will help you. It gives lots of examples. So Alessia, what is the best format to submit a document, like a PDF? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Word is better these days because it used to be that I could send a document to Laura in Word and she would get it and it would be like the alignment would change and everything would be crazy. That's not necessarily what you want, right? So my preference is PDF, and if you're sending a cover letter and your resume, make sure you put them in one document. Nobody wants to open two documents. Would you expect to have lab skills in education section or skill section? Yeah, thanks, Irene. That's a good question. I think either. You could put them in your education. That's a choice. If you really, because your education is probably going to be one of the first things that you're listing. And if you're applying for a lab job and you want those skills to really be pushed to the top, then absolutely you could put them there. Ying Chen, do we need to add a picture in the resume? No, absolutely, 100% no. Okay, that's one of those sort of template ideas that, yeah, it's just not traditional in any way, shape, or form. Now, if you were doing something more creative and applying to a job that encouraged or was looking for somebody who had creative skills, I mean, you might include it, but not necessarily. Keep that on your LinkedIn profile. Alessia says, what if we don't have much experience, for example, in lab except school? Yeah, that's a challenge that many students have. Look, you're just starting this professional journey. Your resume is going to grow with you. Don't panic if you don't feel that you have that much on it now. Laura is going to help you pull out all the value of the skills of the experiences that you do have. And maybe you might showcase something that later on you're going to take off, but you need to make the most of what your experiences are at this moment. Let's see, Sarah's asking, would you put honor roll into your education? Absolutely. So you can even add a little section called honors and awards if you like. And so if you had an entrance scholarship to McMaster, and if you're on the dean's list or one of your department honor rolls, absolutely you can put that under your education, or you could even put it in a separate section. See, these are the things you add in so that you as an individual can show who you are, right? Not everybody has that. So anyway, these are great questions. Okay, other questions? So Chrissy, if many people may lack certain experience due to COVID canceling, making first year online, it's still okay to leave some high school achievement. Yeah, as I said, I mean, if it's volunteer experience, work experience, this may be what all you have right now. Absolutely. And Laura will help you decide what is maybe the best options here when she does her resume review with you. Yeah, it's okay. But I'm going to say that by the time you're finished McMaster, all of your high school should be gone. Okay, you have to make some choices around this because you don't want to have a blank document, right? And it's not to say that the experiences that you had in high school are not important ones. Of course they are. It's just we're trying to get you to be selective. And if you have a ton of things from which to select, then select the things that are most relevant and important. And if your resume is a bit thinner, that's okay. It is going to develop as you grow as a professional. Okay, so all really good questions. Thank you for asking those. So I think we will move on to the next section, which is really about content. And we need you to start thinking about who you are. You need to reflect on what am I good at? What do I do well? Right? And here's an exercise, 16 personalities. You're going to be doing this for your reflection too, okay? So this is one of the required things. It's a pseudoscience kind of thing, but I find it's very helpful, especially in the perspective that it gives from a work alignment, employment, job-related interests. There's also Career One Stop. You could try to get some ideas through there. You could also review old course syllabi, okay? If you've forgotten what kind of lab skills you did or presentations you may have done or major projects, see, these are the things that maybe if your resume is thin, you might want to add on these types of things just to fill things out a little bit. Okay, so just a little more on the 16 personalities. I do find this is kind of, a helpful exercise because it identifies 6 different interest areas and each has its own typical work tasks, roles, and values. And it tries to capture who you are through the questions that they ask you. So I'm hoping that you find this a helpful exercise. All right, so now to our accomplishment statements. And this is where you really need to show me the proof of your abilities. So when I see in your initial statement, hardworking self-starter who's a quick learner, effective communicator, and all-around team player, I just go, no, okay? That tells me nothing. It tells me that you Googled a list of traits that employers are looking for, and you just like thrown them all up there. Do I want to know those things about you? Absolutely. Those are the most important things I want to know about you. But if you include them, show me the data. If you include them in your accomplishment statements, in the bullet points of each experience, then you've shown me the context. You've given me the data about how you know you are all of those traits, okay? They will be much stronger. Is it wrong to put them other places? Not necessarily. They just don't serve you as well as when you put them in your experience profile. Okay, so sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. So all of those bullet points in your resume are called accomplishment statements. They do describe the tasks performed, but they also provide more information, detail, examples if possible, context, impact. Answer as many questions as possible. So we're going to have a look at creating accomplishment statements. And first, I just want to share with you just a humorous video on trying to make the most of who you are, what you do, extract the value of your experiences, okay? Sometimes I do working with students, sometimes I find students undervalue what they've done. And they just, they just can't see it. And, that's our job to help you see the value in your role. Your roles don't necessarily need to be relevant to your degree. All kinds of roles are important. Okay, so I've already heard a number of people leaving, so you already know that this is the answer to your quiz. So this is a little clip from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And so while you're watching this clip, which is just a humorous look at trying to make the most of your accomplishments, the answer to your quiz 2 this week is Will Smith.
I'm interviewing at a catering company, but I'll never get the job because it's a cold, cold world, Will. And unfortunately, these people only want one thing.
What, your body?
No, my resume.
Let me look at it. All right, here we go. Well, first things first. If you're going to want people to take you seriously, you're going to have to stop dotting your I's with these little hearts. And you're applying for the position at a catering company?
Yes, but I don't know anything about catering.
Come on, girl, what are you, tripping? How many catered affairs have you been to?
I don't know, 4, maybe 500.
Okay, there we go. 6,000 hours of catering experience. Didn't you spend like 3 summers in Paris?
Yes, I gained 10 pounds eating croissants.
Studied pastry making with the French masters.
Will, I am no good in the kitchen. I mean, the last time I tried to make breakfast, I burned the entire stove to a crisp.
Expert in the art of flambe.
Okay, so for anyone who missed it, Will Smith is the answer to your quiz. I notice Ying Chen has a question here. If you haven't any work experience, can you skip that part for now? Absolutely, of course. You can't make something up, right? You have to describe you. Every one of you is a unique individual, and you're going to put down on paper what what describes you best, right? You have to make decisions that are uniquely for you. So let's look at the structure of accomplishment statements. So they almost always start with a verb, okay? So notice Will said studied, expert in, well, that's not a verb, isn't it? Or it could have been expertise in. Anyway, there's a verb, a situation, action, and a result, okay? That is an accomplishment statement. Tell the reader as much as you can about that particular point. I often say to students, if I can visualize what you're doing through the words that you've used and the details you've given, then you've done a great job, okay? Then I can actually think about you and your job and visualize exactly what you were doing. So just give you one really simple example here. So say I was hired to file documents in an office setting. Okay, I could put that, file documents in an office setting. All right, but what if I said I did a really good job of it? So accurately filed documents in an office setting. Okay, so now I've started with an adverb. So adverb or verb, accurately filed documents in an office setting. But what if I went one step further and told you the impact of that? Accurately filed documents in an office setting, contributing to the efficiency of the office for the entire team. Okay, so by me doing my one little job, I'm helping everyone else around me get organized, okay? See, that's really about finding the value. It may sound like a silly task, and it's like, oh yeah, that's nothing. But you need to tell the reader, did you do it well? Right? This is where all of those transferable traits, communication, collaboration, organization, time management, that's where all of those traits are going to come into your accomplishment statements, okay? So, transforming duties to accomplishment statements. What did you do? How did you do it? And what was the impact? That's kind of the key here. Give me the details. So we're going to just do a bit of a quick exercise here at strengthening some accomplishment statements. And I'd like, you know, you to reach out and so make some suggestions here. We're going to consider a few things. And here's where just put up your hand, put it in the chat. We're going to start with an accomplishment statement. And I'd like to know, what would you do here to make this even better? So, tutored an 8th grade student. What would you do to make that even better? Elaborate. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Anran. Elaborate. How would you elaborate? What other details might I want to know here? How many times a week? Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Add number of hours? Yeah, absolutely. Did his grades improve? Perfect. Subject, Rebecca, thank you. The course, Jacob, thank you. What's, yeah, now, yeah, so thanks, Chanel and Ning Chen. Yeah, you're getting it now. Give me the details. What do I need to know to really know what you've done here? So let's have a look at one statement that's slightly better. So, successfully tutored an 8th grade student in math. So, just like you've suggested here, given more details. Now I'm telling you I was successful at it. I did it well. And now I've told you that the subject area is math. Let's see. So Anran saying going into detail, like what subject, grades improved, hours, experiences. And Isha, also the relevant skills accomplished required for, that might be good to include. Absolutely, those are all great ideas. So here's one idea that could be even better. So tutored an 8th grade student in math using teacher's curriculum to raise her grade from a C to a B+ over the course of a year. So again, all of your suggestions are right here. So you get this, you get the detail, you get the level of detail that I'm going to need to understand that this is an accomplishment, not just a duty. Okay, so great ideas there. So let's try one more. So for those of you who may have worked with Drosophila before, you may have prepared food for them. So prepared food for fruit flies successfully. Okay, so what could you add to this statement to make it even better yet? What kind of details? Yeah, for what lab? Absolutely. Is this research? Yeah, thanks, Jacob and Anren. Yeah, yep. Give the context, give more details. So a slightly better version might be combined multiple ingredients. So now I've told you that this is a complex process, not just mixing water with a powder, right? So combine multiple ingredients for fruit fly cultures, allowing fruit flies to grow to maturity. Now I've told you, not just was I successful, but this is what success looks like. The fruit flies did grow to maturity. That's what we were looking for. And then a potentially even better one would be prepared 4 varieties of fruit fly cultures which showed exponential increase in population size and produced desirable research results. Okay, so this goes way beyond that initial statement. I've told you details around the complexity of the preparation. I've told you how successful I am because it was exponential growth of population size. We had tons of fruit flies, just like in my kitchen in the summer. And all of this work was contributing to the research results that we were looking for. So see how we build upon that. All right, so those are a couple of examples that I wanted to introduce to you. So I know in our first class, I talked about how, you know, we often do in-class exercises and we try to replicate this online. And I know for some of you, it's not comfortable. And yet I'm going to challenge you and say, this is where you get the most growth, by actually working on something, collaborating, talking with your peers, working on something together. So anyone who can stay on to do this exercise, I'd really appreciate it. And I think it will be most helpful for you in terms of your learning and your development. So we're going to do a quick exercise. We're going to break into, I think, I'm not sure, maybe 12 groups. 12 groups. You're going to go to a Google Doc. I will share that link with you shortly. Actually, I'm just going to do that now. Here's the Google Doc. There are 3 pages on this Google Doc, one for each set of 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15. And each page has a different accomplishment statement. And I'd like you to work collaboratively together. I'm going to give you 5 minutes and see how you can make this statement into a much more meaningful and stronger accomplishment statement. Okay, so can someone check to see if you can open that doc for me? And questions around this activity? Questions? Does everybody understand what you're going to do? Yes, it opens. Thank you. Thanks, Laura and Jacob, for letting me know that. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, 5 minutes, off you go. Have fun with it. And Laura and I will be watching on Google Docs to see what you come up with. Okay, it looks like folks are coming back. That is good. Welcome back. So just quickly review.
Is being recorded.
An accomplishment statement. Tell me the what. Tell me the how. And tell me the result or the impact if you can. Sometimes you can't always do that, but that's what you should, the pattern you should follow if you can. Just wanted to highlight a couple of tools that potentially could help you. I've not tried any of these, to be honest. I really should, because I'm putting it out there and I don't actually know if these are really helpful, but this was in this slide deck originally. So we are at the end of our time together. I just want to stop. Muhammad is asking who the character for our quiz was. It's Will Smith. Okay, so that is our section on resumes. I hope you have a better sense of, or a little more confidence in knowing where you're going to go with this. Remember to book your resume appointment with Laura on Oscar Plus. Make sure it's the Science 2.0 resume book. They will all be online. Just assume it's online for now. We will be back in the office, we hope, after February 7th, but Laura will not be there every day. So some will be in person, some will be online. But for right now, anything that is booked is assumed to be online. So questions? Questions about resumes? Looks like everybody is good. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me and Laura today. I wish you a very, very happy weekend. It's freezing cold out there, so stay warm. And I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Okay, bye for now, everyone.